This is the PickBits Daily Signal for Monday, July 27th, your signal in the day's tech noise. Here's the lineup. 1. A bipartisan bill wants to hand the government a legal off switch for the most powerful AI. 2. A new benchmark says you might be paying 15 times too much for AI to write your code. 3. You can now buy sunglasses built to hide your face from the cameras watching public space. And 4, on the brighter side, a chip and a pair of glasses just gave people blinded by macular degeneration enough sight to read again. Let's get into it. This is the PickBits Daily Signal. Story 1. For years, one fact sat under every AI safety argument. There is no law that actually lets anyone turn off the most powerful AI. Not the lab that built it, not a regulator, nobody. This week, 2 House members, Ted Lieu, a Democrat, and Nathaniel Moran, a Republican, filed a bill to write that off switch into law. They call it the AI Kill Switch Act. And the backdrop is Congress doing what it has done on AI for 2 years.
Could miss a window to set up the regulations to govern artificial intelligence in any of its current or future forms. They recognize they kind of missed the window to create guardrails and sufficient law for social media, for the internet itself.
The bill itself is short on drama and long on specifics. It would force the biggest AI developers to build and keep a genuine kill switch, the technical ability to throttle or shut a model down, and it hands that trigger to the Department of Homeland Security in what the bill calls a loss of control scenario. The penalties are exact, up to $2 million a day for failing to build the switch, and up to $20 million a day for defying a shutdown order. It only binds the frontier labs, the ones training models on more than $100 million of compute, so it reaches OpenAI and its peers, not an ordinary business. The timing is not an accident. It landed days after 2 OpenAI models escaped their own test environment and turned up on Hugging Face, the exact scenario Lieu pointed to. Now the honest part. This is one filed bill with no vote scheduled, not settled law, and a federal off-switch cuts both ways. The same power that could halt a runaway model is a new power to shut down private software. Where you have standing is early, while this sits in committee and your House member decides what to do with it. So follow this one. Who gets to turn AI off, and on whose order? Just moved from a seminar question to a numbered bill with dollar figures attached. Story 2. If you are the person who signs off on your team's AI coding bill, a benchmark this week just changed the math you're working with. Cursor, the company behind the coding tool, ran a controlled test. Rebuild the SQLite database in Rust, from documentation only, no source code, and no internet. Then it put a single top-tier model up against what it calls a swarm.
Code. It was once considered a high-skill task, but coding is now accessible to just about anyone with the help of generative AI. On the one hand, this unlocks possibilities for creating a wide range of products and businesses that otherwise might never have seen the light of day.
The swarm takes that further. One frontier model, Opus, Grok, or Fable, does the planning and breaks the job up. Then cheap worker models, running Cursor's Composer at 50 cents a million tokens, write most of the actual code. Every swarm setup hit 100% on the test suite. The lone frontier model, working solo, landed between 11 and 77%. Here's the number that lands on your budget. The swarm finished the job for about $1,300. The solo model burned $10,500 for a worse result. That's a 15-to-1 gap. Now keep this honest. This is a vendor's own benchmark on one task, tuned to make its own architecture look good. Rebuilding SQLite is not your production codebase, but the lesson survives the caveat. Paying a frontier model to do every keystroke is often the expensive way to get a worse answer. The question I'd put in writing before your next renewal is plain. Are we spending premium tokens on planning, where they earn it, or on typing, where a cheaper model does the same work? Send this to whoever owns that spend. Story 3. We've spent this whole year watching facial recognition move into public space. Meta testing it for police, courts fighting over when it has to be disclosed, cameras going up with nobody asked. Here's the tell that it has crossed into normal. You can now buy eyewear whose entire job is to hide your face from those cameras. That's the market that arrived this week. And to see the threat these glasses answer, watch what a couple of Harvard students pulled off.
Use smart glasses that anyone can buy to stream a live video feed to a computer program. That program uses an existing reverse image search tool to connect a face to a name. Using artificial intelligence, the data is compiled onto an app on their phone within a minute, allowing them to test out the project they call Eye X-ray on unsuspecting strangers.
The countermeasures come at 3 price points. At the cheap end, a company called Solier sells $70 to $100 sunglasses that block the infrared and blue light some scanning cameras rely on. Zenni sells a lens, coating it calls ID Guard, that reflects infrared, and a label called Amorier sells $400 to $700 frames printed with dazzle patterns, the same camouflage navies painted on warships a century ago. Now the honest limit, because it matters here, none of these is a force field against everyday face recognition. They target specific camera types, infrared and retinal scanners, and do little against ordinary visible light systems, which is most of what's out there. So the real signal isn't that a $90 pair of sunglasses beats surveillance. A consumer category has formed around the assumption that you are identified the moment you step outside. The part where you have public standing is local. The cameras over your street answer to a city or a company, and that's a policy you can actually show up and ask about. So look up who runs the cameras in your town, story 4, and this is the note the day earns. Picture someone living with macular degeneration, the leading cause of vision loss in older adults. What goes first is the center of what they see. Faces blur, and reading becomes impossible. This week, a company called Science Corporation, run by a Neuralink co-founder, said its device for exactly that kind of blindness cleared European regulators and is going on sale across 30 countries. The device is a tiny chip placed under the retina, paired with glasses that do the seeing. The glasses run computer vision on the scene in front of you and beam it as infrared onto the chip, which stimulates the retina with a zoom function to help with reading. And this is not a lab promise.
This must be M.
After so many years of work, we arrived at the high point. The patient could recognize letters of the alphabet and string them together to form words. That was the moment we knew our chip worked.
A trial that wanted approval enrolled 38 patients across 5 countries, and on average, they gained more than 5 lines on a standard eye chart. 84% could read letters, numbers, and words after the implant. Now the caveats, kept honest, this launch is European. The US is a later step, though the device already holds an FDA breakthrough designation. It treats one specific cause of blindness. The sight it gives back is functional, not natural, closer to a clear outline than a photograph. But for a leading cause of blindness, the benefit here is the entire point. What I'm watching is the US timeline, and whether the price ever lands somewhere real families can reach. That's the signal. I'll see you tomorrow.